G'day Battlers, and welcome to the G'day Battlers podcast, where the only thing we like more than good PvPIVs is inviting the same person onto the podcast in like a quarter of the episodes. I think it's probably around the 25% mark at this point. But regardless, I'm PvP Steve alongside my co-host Debbie Pebble. Hi, Debbie.
Hello. Hi.
And today we're fresh back from the Melbourne 2024 regional, the second regional tournament of the season for the Oceanic region. And we've figured, how could we possibly do a recap of Melbourne with just me and Debbie? So today we've invited not only one man, the Melbourne Regional Championship, the Melbourne champion, YACOBERVITCH, but also we've brought in a ragtag guy who fought in so many battles on day 2, TripppleCrit as well. So first time on the podcast, welcome in. I would be asking you both for intros, but we've heard Yako blab on about who he is so many times. We'll give TripppleCrit a go. So TripppleCrit, welcome in. Who are you? Where are you from? Yada, yada, yada. Hi.
Thank you. Hey, it's TripppleCrit.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just a friendly battler, Pokemon player. I guess I started in 2016. A few weeks after everybody else got onto it. Played for about a year, then had a kid, and just was way too busy to keep playing the game. So just took a year off, and after a little while, and the little one, starts to get a bit easier. Started playing again, and then found PvP. Started off in a local tournament down in Mordialloc in Melbourne, Victoria, and just grew to love the community, and PvPing was always the way to go. Like I always felt like the game was more about actually battling your Pokemon than just collecting. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, you've always been a man that's sort of hanging around the top of the Sylph Arena tournament rankings. Always. I feel like you must have. I don't think I've probably ever beaten you. I don't know how many times we've played, but I don't think I've ever come out on top. So definitely someone who's sort of been lurching in the background of a lot of tournaments over the last however many years. But also, this wasn't your first Play Pokemon regional tournament, right?
No, I was at the first one for Melbourne ever in St Kilda, which was an absolute ball, and a little bit of a mess up with kicking it off, as we all know.
Understatement.
Yeah. Internet was pretty bad. But yeah, I did St Kilda, so that was a lot of fun. Meeting heaps of people that I've been chatting to for so long through Discord and Messenger. I think one of the funniest parts was having to verse my local and actually knocking out one of my local mates. I didn't go too far. I think I only went 2-2 off memory. You could probably pull up the stats, but no, that was a lot of fun. And then also did OCIC as well.
The biggest Pokemon tournament of all time. And I have Googled it. Yeah, 2-2 seems to be the trick.
2-2.
But losing up against Gone, which is like, fair enough.
Which actually, I had a dispute during that match. I thought, I thought that I should have been able to get a move through. And Fish on a Heater was being like a help out judge, so he came along and proved me wrong. I didn't know what I was talking about. And gave Gone.
It's all right. Happens to the best of us.
Sure does.
I mean, in fairness, it actually was called a dispute back then. So, he did have a dispute in the game. But on the other side, we do have the 2-time regional champ and only probably ever OCIC champ, Yako, back in the building. So, I mean, Yako, again, we already know who you are. I'm putting 60 seconds on the clock, and if you go past 60, I'm air horning you. So, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, yes. My name is YACOBERVITCH, also known as Jacob. I live down in Melbourne as well. I'm actually a local of TripppleCrit. We've battled several times throughout the years in grassroots tournaments and whatnot. I got into PvP, I'd say probably 3 years ago now. I definitely haven't been in the game as long. I got introduced to it by my friend in a Bloom 94 because he kept beating me in every single tournament, so I wanted to get better. 3 years later, I am now better than him, I'd like to say. But, in some formats, not all of them, so don't kill me in a Bloom, but I feel like I've now caught up in a good way.
I think
I
it's
mean,
safe
like,
to
that
say.
was
pretty
that was
good.
good.
He's got good hair gel game. Give him that.
There's
The
such
man does
volume.
look stylish.
Speaking of Bloom, I actually just beat him for the first time ever 2 nights ago.
Was that in the APAC tournament?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
That was a long time coming as well. So in a Bloom crack battler.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Oh, 100%. Put that man in a grassroots tournament. Put that man in a grassroots tournament, he's going to sweep it.
I mean, Silver Arena World's top 8 twice. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Definitely a man with some talent, but also enemy of the show, because he did steal my top 8 mat that one time. So we'll never forgive him, and glad that he didn't win this tournament, or else we'd have to have him on, and it would probably just be the Debbie and Inner Bloom show. I kid, but also Inner Bloom, watch out.
He's not kidding. The amount of times Steve's like, no, we're not having him on. I'm like, oh, but he won the APAC qualifier. I was like, no, we're not having him on. I was like, okay. He stole my mat, Debbie. He stole my mat.
He knows what he did. Regardless, we're not here to talk about Inner Bloom, thank God. We're here to talk about the Melbourne Regional Championship. So I guess we'll sort of actually dive in sort of pre-tournament, because I think that obviously, I guess for those who aren't aware, a lot of us were, I mean, Debbie and I were both on the ground. We were able to watch the battles sort of over everyone's shoulders, and we put a little bit of a stream together to go over all of the battles the other day. But something that sort of came really clear out of it is that you guys had 2 very different teams. So I guess I wanted to hear from both of you sort of how you built your team, where it sort of came from. And I guess we'll start with Champman himself, because I think that your team in particular was the most unique out of the top 8.
Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't expect my team to be all that unique, at least in the top 8 aspect. So I kind of wanted to do a similar strategy to what I did in Brisbane, which was, it's too hard to cover for every meta threat. So cover for all of them except leave for one, but one that is manageable. So in this case, I did it for Lickitung. If you look at my team, you have a Lickitung in your team, that thing is coming in every single game, and pretty much the same thing that happened in Brisbane with Metachamp happened in Melbourne. Almost every single game I went up against a Lickitung. So, it's always great dealing with that thing, but yeah, made it work. So I went with pretty stock standard meta for 4 of my picks. I went with Lickitung, Chargebug, Wishcash, although in this case I picked a Shadow, and I'm trying to actually remember my team now.
Shadow Gligar was the other big guy.
Yeah. So so those are my 4 mostly meta picks. The only real difference there being the Shadow Wishcash over regular, which I'll touch on more in a bit. And then my sort of 2 more outlier picks were Pelipper and Abomasnow. So those 2 I picked for a very specific reason of Wishcash Poliwrath, or basically things that debuff, like things with Scald, things with Icy Wind, as everyone knows, has been very annoying to deal with. Sorry?
You did actually say leading up to Melbourne, everybody watch out for the debuffs. I remember you making a comment like that, and now it makes sense.
Oh, I did, yes. I made a joke that I was intending to run 6 debuffing mons, because I figured embrace that meta of play to the RNG, play to the RNG and the RPS, just go for Skullfish and all them. But then kind of thinking about it, I very much went the opposite way of my team building. I went with I'm going to just hard stop people from doing that. So Wishcash being the main debuffer with the Skulls, having Pelipper and regular Abomasnow that completely wall it, no one brought Wishcash against me. So I dealt with little to no RNG with debuffs for pretty much the entire tournament, which I think in that sense made the games more skill based rather than debuff fishing. And I like to think that when it comes to just completely neutral play, that I have an edge against most of my opponents, being able to outplay most of it in a very neutral set. So, but yeah, and then with the Shadow Wish Cash, originally I was going to go with regular, and then I did tweet about my team breakdown. So if you want a more in-depth one, you can check there. But I was suggested Shadow Wish Cash by Gengineer and EJB, as our 23 EJB as well. They both told me to run Shadow Wish Cash for... Basically, they said it was more for Skarmory because Skull will two-shot it. Never, ever had that situation of getting the Wish Cash on the Skarmory. But one thing I learned throughout the tournament, which they also mentioned, was it has a much better Azumarill matchup, and it's also much better against the Lickitung. So, to be honest, I did not use Shadow Wish Cash for almost the entire tournament except for the grand finals. So, except for the day 2 rounds where, funny enough, it dealt with Lickitung and Azumarill for majority of the day. So, yeah, bit of a unorthodox team composition, but it kind of caters to my playstyle. So, I was proud of that team for just what it was able to achieve.
It was a very strong team. I couldn't really find any holes in it. Definitely. You had perfect coverage. You had really good coverage.
There is one hole to that team which I had to deal with for 15 games. So I'm sure we'll find out about that in a moment.
It wasn't a hole. It wasn't a hole.
Something at least had to think about a little bit when he was putting his team together, I guess. But yeah, I guess you're right that your team is very much unorthodox in the sense that it actually sort of has a strategy built into it a little bit, which I feel like so many people sort of go into these tournaments, they build a balanced team of 6 and then they just run it and they go, okay, I've got a balanced team of 6 against a balanced team of 6, so I'm going to pick 3, and it can really go, there's a lot of chances for things to go RPS. And I think that building away from that potentially does lean things a little bit more into the skill corner, which in some ways actually puts some people off their rocker a little bit because they're expecting a different bit of a matchup. So it might help in that sense a little bit as well, which is handy. Seems to work, evidently. But
yeah, I mean, you look at my team in the top 8 for Melbourne, and my team was the only one without a counter user. So in specifically Annihilate, there was 7 Annihilates in the top 8, and 7 Steel types in the top 8, and I was the only team that had neither a Steel type or a counter user.
Very brave.
He's not wrong there.
Very brave.
And honestly, it strikes me that's obviously like amazing in its own right, but it's weird to me that we still can't actually say that it's the only team with a Bomber Snow in the top 8, and it's not the only team with Pelipper in the top 8. That wigs me out. The fact that we had one other person run one of those Pokemon each. Anacore with a Bomber Snow, and Bamboozled ran Pelipper. So they were on both sides of the losers bracket, actually. So they would have had to fight their way through to ever see each other. But Vish and Avrip made sure that they didn't get any further than that. They still made an appearance regardless. But I guess TripppleCrit, also a man with I think one Pokemon in particular that is a little bit standout, a little bit of an attention grabber, and a Pokemon that, well, one other person did get into the top 16 with it. But let's focus on your team first up. Take us through sort of how you got to your team and actually what ended up on the final roster.
Well, you must be talking about Azumarill as that standout pick, right?
Yes.
I was actually thinking of Lickitung. Lickitung, crazy pick. I mean, can't believe you've done it.
Who would run it? Who would run it?
Madman.
I don't know. I just a little bit of a backstory, which is St Kilda Regional, going 2-2. OCIC, I can't remember, but I don't think I got very far. So I might have won 2 in that as well. And kind of coming to the realization a long time ago that I don't really like Open Great League format and really much prefer limited metas. And so I did a bit of preparation for St Kilda, scrims and a little bit of team building and thought process put into it. And then a little bit less put into OCIC, and then absolutely nothing into Melbourne Regional 2024. I did not think about team building the whole way. I actually was probably the third last person to sign up just because I saw someone post, I think it was you, Debbie, that there's only like a couple of spots left. And Jacob also jumped on the train to quickly register, and I registered straight after that.
Oh,
So
you guys.
probably lucky to even have been at the tournament and competing. And we had a long time. We at least had a couple of months, right, to think about what we were going to do. But I did not start team building until 20 past 12 midnight on the Saturday. 7 hours and 40 minutes before the teams have to be submitted. And so I just straight away messaged my Battle Frontier group, which Jacob's also in. What should I run? Just tell me what to run. And there was a couple of ideas thrown about. And one Pokemon that was mentioned was Bastiodon. And I seem to remember a little while ago, I like to listen to my Pokemon podcast, including this one. Big fan. Big fan. Probably a number one fan. But yeah, Caleb Peng and his run with Bastiodon. He just always loves to tell everybody to bring your Bastiodon counters. And I looked at the meta, and one of my Battle Frontier members, they also mentioned Bastiodon just as a joke. But then I looked into it, and it actually seemed to do pretty well against the current meta. And like taking Jacob's team, for example, Bastiodon was beating 4 of his, and then only losing to the Whiscash, and then having not a bad matchup against the Gligar, which everybody was running, just because the Smackdowns add up so much. So I ended up running pretty much Caleb Peng's team, but I thought I can't just copy it straight up. I don't really like the Vigoroth that he brought. I just feel like more and more people are jumping onto Annihilate at the moment, and Vigoroth just has no play into it. So I picked Annihilate instead, and that was my team of 6 with Annihilate, Lickitung, Chargebug, Bastiodon, Azumarill, and Shadow Gligar.
Yeah, I'm sure Caleb Peng was like, holding hope that you would win Melbourne Regional so that he could put it on his podcast and being like, see, finally.
I was really hoping for him to be able to just rub it in Anacor's face that Bastiodon would win. But yeah, I obviously, because I didn't really, I wasn't doing too well in the previous Play Pokemon tournaments, and kind of had reserved myself back to I just want to attend and just catch up with everybody, and the battling was just a bonus. So my whole mindset going into Melbourne was just to catch up with everybody and have some fun. There was no serious thought about winning. There was no thoughts about possibly going very far at all, and maybe that helped because I played a little bit risky in some matchups, and I guess bringing a Bastiodon seems like a bit of a risk too. And sure enough, it actually was really strong in quite a few of my matchups.
Yeah, I mean, that's a brilliant attitude to go into the regional, especially. It sounds like you've had a full year to think about before heading into your next regional, and just going in with a more of an attitude of going, you know what, let's just have fun with it. Now, back to Yako. Now, having been the back-to-back winner and obviously being the champion of Brisbane, you've already got your World's invite. So what were your thoughts and your processes like heading into Melbourne?
So, yeah, already secured my invite, so there was no stress for me doing that. Really, I guess there's a couple of reasons for me entering Melbourne. It's my local, first of all, so it's barely an hour's drive away from me, so there's no reason for me not to attend it. At the same time, the travel award was the other reason I wanted to go for it. It's kind of like the race for the points was kind of what drove me to I wanted to do well in Melbourne, but it wasn't the intention to win, so to say. Like, I knew there was always a possibility of me winning, It was more just wanted to do well enough that I can put a reasonable head start on the CP points to get the travel award, just so I can get that a little that extra money in the pocket to go to Hawaii. So that was really the main reason for me going, just to try and secure that a little bit more heavily.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like us being in Australia, Hawaii is not a short flight away. So every little bit helps to make it our way over there. And yeah, just I think that was a clever way to go about it. Especially during that period of time, we weren't told about locals yet. During just before we were, that was only announced just before Melbourne Regional started. So locals being announced for Oceania for March, and like I said, prior to that, we only had 3 regionals. So the fact that if you attend 2 regionals and you did well, you probably were going to do or rank very high in championship points for that travel award and travel package. But let's go into day 1 of Melbourne Regionals. We'll start off with TripppleCrit. And tell me, how did your battles go in day 1? What did you face? Was there anything in particular that you were just like, oh, that's a bit curly? And, you know, what was your favorite battle?
Oh, wow. Now I have to try and use my memory. So I think my first opponent was Cola 4. I've seen the name before, but I've never met them or spoken over Discord or any other chats, but I have seen their name somewhere before, so I knew they've been around. And I can't remember their team for the life of me.
I'm sure we can pull it up.
I can't remember their team.
I can say that. So they got. Yeah, I was gonna say we can use Dracoviz. They had Annihilate, Carbink, Shadow Dragonair, Lantern, Umbreon, and Venusaur.
Yeah, it's okay. I can't even remember what they ran. All lines of 3. I think the whole of Melbourne is slightly a blur, but the matchups felt reasonably comfortable. At least my first few matchups. I can't remember Cola 4's matchup with me. I just know I won 2-zip, and that was a little bit of shock just to get a kickstart of a win in the first round. I do remember, I think my next opponent was, what's his name again?
Terra King.
Terra King. Yeah, I knew it was King something.
And Terra King did quite well in OCIC in the previous year. I think he was in the top 16.
Oh, really? Okay. So I had heard that he's a pretty good battler. Turns out he said himself he's a Master League player, not a Great League player, or prefers. But his problem, I remember quite specifically, was he had a Charm Ninetales, and I have a Bastiodon.
Oh no!
And
I feel like we already know where this is going.
Yeah, I remember this one really specifically, which was game 1 was a Lickitung versus a Lickitung, and after game 1, he mentioned, "Oh, what's your IVs?" And turns out we actually had the same IV spread, and I won. Yeah, none of us shielded the Lickitung, and I won CMP on the last, or C8. Was it CAP now?
Oh yes, the cap.
On the last body slam, and he decided to let it go. So I actually got switch with my Lickitung versus his, and in the back towards the end of the matchup, I was just praying he doesn't have his Whiscash in the back, and turns out it was his Alolan Ninetales versus my Bastiodon. So yeah, that was straight away a good game. GG's, well played. And then game 2, I led my Bastiodon into his Alolan Ninetales, which really hurt.
That's kind of GG's off the bat right there.
Yeah,
really hurt. There was nothing he could do, and the smackdown happened. But that was great. Off to a great start. I've managed to RPS my way to victory, at least in that matchup. Funny enough, that's the only matchup I felt like Bastiodon was RPS, and all the rest of the matchups, it played out quite neutrally. I think it was only really Jacob's team with the Whiscash again, because not too many people ran Whiscash. It was quite often coming up against Lanterns, and even against the fighting type, but sort of late game when I could throw a move and then swap out anyway. And then at least it hits quite hard against the fighting type. And then, what was it, my third round opponent? Who was that?
Rex Torm
Rex.
from South Australia.
Rex Torm. They were really close battles. It was quite surprising because I looked at their team and Bastidon, I think, beat their whole team.
I was gonna say Basti only struggles against the Shadow Glider. Against everything else, Basti basically just bodies. So I'm surprised he took a game off you.
Yeah, so I must have misplayed somewhere in there, or he just played amazingly with just maneuvering around the whole battle, and using, neutral damage and against my Bastion. Bastion's not going to beat all three and never will. So it was still a case of needing to align the other two in the back reasonably well. But it felt not too bad, pretty comfortable. There was a dispute in there. I think it was for the deciding game, but that all got sorted out reasonably quickly. So, and I won that one 2-1 as well. I was just absolutely on a high, winning three battles in a row. Day one, it was just an absolute blast. I feel like I was the most vocal out of everybody on day one, yelling and screaming with joy. And
the following battle was with Singaporean, I believe the Korean player. And I was asking him, going, "Oh, are you coming to the following regionals?" And he's like, "Oh no, I go back to school." I was like, "Oh, okay, so young." I was like, "Oh, he's going back to high school." Okay, yep, cool.
I really wish I could actually remember all my battles a lot better, because I do remember that battle being so close, and game 3 with his lead, I already felt like I'd lost the game, and just continued to play and maneuver around the battle, and somehow coming into like an advantageous position with a very small margin to win, and I end up winning the deciding game. And it felt like winning the whole entire competition versus the Singaporean player, who apparently was from Korea. It honestly felt like I'd won the whole competition. That's how close the battles were and how excited I was about winning that. Yeah, no, it was amazing.
There's a bit of, so I can actually give you a bit of context to Singapore. So he's currently competing in the Korean qualifiers for the Asia Pacific Championships. And because I know this from Anacor, obviously, because he's like doing a lot of the organization for that. And Singapore is actually one of the highest rated players on there at the moment. Like he's like one of the top players. So because no one really knew of him when he came down. I think the fact that he came down and he was beating or doing really well against a lot of names, like, because I'm pretty sure he beat Gorn in the previous round. And Gon's obviously quite a well-known player, like a very good player as well. So I think a lot of people were kind of thrown off about it. But if you knew who Singapore was, you would know that he's actually a very good player. No one had really heard of him. So you beating him like the way you did, like that was, because you just think, oh, he's someone I don't really know, but no, he's actually quite a skilled player.
Yeah, so I think it was like game 1. He absolutely RPS'd me. He had his Alolan Sand Slash onto my Gligar, which was just a horrible matchup. And in the back, he had answers to just RPS my backline too. And then it kind of flipped, and I made a better call in game 2 and read his line and did the same back to him basically, with just a really comfortable lead with a comfortable backline to maintain switch. And then game 3, can't remember specifically, but it might have been his Gligar onto my Bastiodon at the lead, and ending up having his Lantern onto my Azumarill at some point as well. But I think, I just had enough energy to like force him to throw and then swap out, and instead of charging up a little bit more energy, he also instant swapped. And that just meant that later in the match, when I was able to come back in, he was dry enough that I just outpaced him by one move to shadow ball his lantern to finish it off. Because I was running Ice Punch as well, and it was way too healthy for an Ice Punch to KO. So it just all worked out just perfectly with getting one move ahead to get to the shadow ball.
Oh wow! Even just hearing from it, I just wish it was streamed. Just
It
like
was
that would have been amazing to watch.
It was an intense battle.
Yeah.
Who was
and I
my
think-
next?
And I'm sure it would have been a high, not only because how close it is, how well fought it was, but also that's like, if I'm not mistaken, that's the sort of closing out battle of day one. Like that's solidifying your spot in the top 4 from that point, right?
No, actually, after that he battled Claire.
Claire.
Yeah, so that's versus Claire. I
On
actually
the same day.
I
I
think
thought
it
that
was-
was.
yeah.
No,
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, they battled again. They battled on day 1 and day 2.
Yeah,
To put it in context, I was shaking after that battle against Singaporean dude. Like my heart was racing that hard. The battle was that close, and I was in disbelief that I won. And I didn't realize that I had to verse Claire, and I really didn't want to do another battle on day 1 because I already thought I was through. And then found out I'm now up against Claire, which it probably put me a little bit to rest and calm down. Just the fact that it was Claire, Rocket Claire. We're such good friends. We've been on multiple teams together, gym breakers and in factions as well. So it's just a really good friendly matchup where I could just relax and just play the battle.
Yeah, look, I guess that was probably also, I think at that point, you guys are sort of locked in the top 6, I think, at that stage. Because there's only 4 people left in the winners bracket. At that point, it's you, Rocket Claire, Yako, and Rick Flareon, I think, are all hanging up there in the winners. So it's very much sort of getting to that end bit of the run. There's only, a few people left. You're locked into the championship points. At that point, are you locked into prize money as well?
Yes.
We were.
Yeah. I remember Claire coming up in between. I'm just like, oh, you've made X amount already. She's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, and also that's USD. And she's like, oh my gosh. And I'm just like, she's like, I'm just having fun. I'm like, that's the whole point. Just have fun and just keep going.
She actually didn't really hear you properly because she didn't understand that she had already earned money until after she finished her loser bracket battles to come out all the way through to day 2.
Yeah.
And just overcome with joy about coming that far.
It does really like catch up on you, especially like the more and more the tournament go. I don't know about anyone else, but for me, I lose track of I know what round I'm up to, but I don't fully know when I reach the point of getting prize money or anything like that. I think I only realized I got it after. I think I really only realized it after round 5. I realized oh wait, no, I'm actually well into the prize the prize pool now. So it's definitely when you're so focused on the battles, you don't think about that. At least not. I don't know about you, Crit, but at least I know I didn't think about it.
No, well, I never expected to go far anyway. So I was just having fun, and the whole of day 1 was just a blast. I wasn't thinking about winning anything. Didn't realize I was even in a money position at that stage.
You could not wipe the smile off TripppleCrit's face from day 1. I remember going up to you and being like, how are you feeling? And you're like, this is the best day of my life.
If you could see the smile on my face right now, it'd be the exact same. Reliving it all. So I come up against Claire at the end of day 1, and I can't remember our game 1 line, but I do believe I managed to sneak out the win in game 1. And then game 2, I led Bastiodon into a Gligar, which is not that great. And I think I safe swapped my Lickitung, nice and neutral. She chips it away with her Gligar and then swaps into her own Lickitung. And at that stage, it's quite easy for her to, maintain alignment without going down extra shields and ending up with the Gligar on the Basti again, no problem. And I think it actually came down pretty close in that game too, but it was still, a really good win for Claire. And then game 3, it's the whole mind game of, do you run it again? Surely. So she led Gligar game 1 and she led Gligar game 2. And so I'm just thinking there is no chance that she leads it 3 times in a row. So I just ran the exact same team back again. And what does she do? She led Gligar for a 3rd time. And I audibly shouted out, "No, you didn't! I can't believe you led it 3 times in a row." She's got her headphones in her ear. She can't really even understand what I was saying. And yeah, so
I vaguely remember hearing that shout in my matches as well, because you were not that far from me when you were having those games.
as I said, I was the most vocal, I think, there during the whole day.
I loved it. I loved it so much. Who needed commentary and casting when you've got you're just doing it yourself?
There was just so much excitement and joy. But we both actually ran the exact same lines back again. And so she won it pretty comfortably in game 2. And this time I thought, I can't play the exact same way. So I just went straight into my hard counter, which was my Azumarill. And for whatever reason, it just worked out slightly better with having energy in different spots. And I think I ended up losing that secondary matchup, but coming out with so much energy on Bastiodon, eating 3 power whips and just farming it all the way down, and then being able to throw 2 stone edges at the Gligar and threatening a shield. And from there, I was a lot more comfortable. But it still came down to a really close finish. I think I actually even caught a body slam late game on my Bastiodon to waste some of her energy. So that game 3 was actually really hard to win. But yeah, it was such a good battle. We really do need these streamed.
For sure.
One day, maybe,
One
if we're
day.
lucky. But regardless, that sort of, I guess, finally, this time does actually close out day 1 and sort of putting yourself into the winners finals, guaranteed in the top 3 at that point, which is a pretty wacko.
Amazing.
YACOBERVITCH. But I guess we should probably go the other side. And Yako, obviously, you were sort of running through your own bracket, going through your own battles to make your way to the winners final as well. So, take us through sort of, I guess, again, sort of what your favorite battles were, what sort of stands out to you, what you remember going through that sort of first day, sort of win after win after win.
Oh, I mean, I feel like just before going to the battles, I feel like the average, the skill level of this tournament was the highest it's been in amongst all the. I would say even including OCIC. I just feel like the skill level was really just peaked at this stage, and in terms of the Australian competitive scene. Because none of my battles were straightforward. All my competitors were just skilled in their own way. So it was definitely a lot trickier to maneuver around this time than it was for I guess OCIC, but Brisbane, I guess there was a lot more straightforward matchups. But yeah, this one was definitely harder. So my first round opponent, I know I've heard this name Jummathy somewhere. He was a really nice guy, and I just kind of RPS'd him. I led Gligar into his Charger Bug game 1 and 2, and all I had to do was keep alignment there. So, but he actually told me after game 2, he said, I really wasn't expecting you to use the Gligar again. And I told him that I had actually meant to lead something else, and I forgot to switch it. So when I input the game, I realized, I led Gligar again. And I was thinking I'll make it work. And I saw the Charger Bug. I'm like, that is a very happy accident right there.
Wow.
Oh my god.
So
This guy.
He wasn't too happy about that, but so I accidentally RPS him in game 2 as well. Round 2,
I mean,
which sorry,
shout out to any of Yako's opponents, because if you try and predict him, he can't even predict himself. That's wild. Anyway,
it
apologies.
takes a whole
Continue.
new level. Takes a whole new level of skill to not even know your own game plan when beating someone. And then round 2, which was, I feel like the one that was probably the most unfortunate in my eyes, was against Avrip. And me and him meeting in round, like, we both saw the bracket and we're both looking at each other. We're just like, we're both hoping. We know that both of us have a really good chance, or both of us have a good chance of going forward in our round. So we're looking at each other, kind of thinking like, this is going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, Adam's
Sure enough,
first round opponent was Zoe 2 Dots, so I think for a round 2 matchup was it was, the percentage was high. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I mean, especially after RPS, my first opponent, and so me and Avrip looked at each other. We're just thinking like, all right, let's do this. And what made it worse, I feel like, was just our matchups are RPS. I guess I don't like, because he had Altaria, Skarmory, I had Charge Bug, a Bomber Snow, and we were both sort of using Lickitung as like a pivot sort of thing. So, game 1, he RPS'd me, game 2, I RPS'd him, and then game 3, I'm like, you know what, I don't want to risk the RPS, I'm going to lead Lickitung and have a more neutral matchup. So basically just win lead, RPS the back, which is what I ended up doing. So Adam played phenomenally. Like, he, nearly got his win cons where he could, but unfortunately, just getting a Bomber Snow onto Altaria or getting his Skarmory onto my Bomber Snow was really just how it worked. Like, a Bomber Snow was really the main kicker in that round specifically for me, and he kind of knew it was at the end. He was in game 3 when he lost, when I just sat there debuffing everything with Icy Winds over and over again, and nothing was doing damage. So, shout out to a Bomber Snow.
Seems like you learned from a previous opponent that liked to debuff you with a flying type.
Honestly, yeah, like, it was just unfortunate that we had to meet in round 2. So that was a good match. I would say in day 1, my round 3 opponent was probably my personal favorite. He is a guy called Stammy P, who I didn't realize. I knew he was a player and I knew he was decent, but I didn't know he was Australian. And Mikey Morgs had actually told me about him before, saying that this guy could potentially be a dark horse in this tournament. And after battling him, I very much agree with this, because in terms of technical ability, like, we had very, I guess, balanced lines against each other. And in terms of technical gameplay, it was very, very even. Like, we both pushed each other to 1 HP wins, 1 turn wins. Yeah, it was really, really good round. Like, game 3, he caught an Icy Wind onto his Dugong. I brought in my Charger Bug. And you would think at that point he has a debuffed Dugong against my Charge Bug. Like, should be, like, I'm at a clear disadvantage there. I still only won that game by like 1 HP. He just played around his win con so well. So I think he was my favorite opponent from day 1. And then onto my round 4, where I met with probably one of the most crazy teams I've ever seen in these tournaments. I had to deal with not only another Bastiodon, I had to deal with a Shadow Razorleaf Bayleaf.
Wow!
Shout out to Kuwait here. We love our Spice Lords on this podcast, but
I seem to be a magnet for these guys. I always run into one of these Spice Lords in every one of these Australian tournaments. So I ran into this guy in round 4, and I immediately see Bastiodon, Shadow Razorleaf, Wigglytuff, and I'm getting PTSD from GBL all over again. So, luckily for this one, I pretty much had the alignment. I forced alignment where I could, and, got my Wish Cash on. Oh, this is the only other round I used Wish Cash as well, and managed to get the Wish Cash onto a Bastiodon. So,
and avoid a Razor Leafer. Wow.
he never bought it. He never bought the Razor Leaper. So maybe, I mean, I was still terrified of seeing that thing onto my Shadow Wish Cache at some point, but never happened. So I got lucky there. And then after that was my match against Rick Flareon. So this was a rematch that I was very scared coming into until I saw our teams, and I realized I had such a huge advantage over him. If you put a comparison between our teams together, he cannot bring his Registeel against me because Shadow Wish Cache and Shadow Gligar were so safe into him that there was no chance he's bringing Registeel. So I abused that, and I bought a Abomasnow Pelipper. So I went ABA weak to Registeel, knowing he could never use Registeel against me, and it paid off. And I just Abomasnow did Abomasnow things of just debuffing everything on that squad, and Pelipper just really helpful as like the Annihilate coverage there. But I remember as we were playing out the games, I think it was game 2, and I just hear, because Rick has his earphones on, he's usually keeping to himself really focused. We're playing game 2 out, and all I hear him just say is, "I hate this team. I hate your team. I hate this team."
It's not a vocal man, so you managed to get that out of him.
No, it's just like, even before the games, he was looking at it, he just shakes his head. It's like, oh man. I'm like, I was thinking to myself, like, is it really that bad? I'm looking at, oh yeah, this is not great for him. And then just game 2, I think he's got a liquor tongue, and I've got 2 icy winds loaded on a Abomasnow. I'm just firing them off, and he's just like, I hate this team. I hate it so much.
Oh,
So,
bless.
yeah, that was like, this is nothing. Like it was an easy 2-0 sweep, but that's not an easy 2-0 sweep because of a skill difference. It's literally just such a huge team comp advantage there. So it was nice to get that. And then so winning that against Rick was when I realized, hey, I'm now in the winners finals and up against this guy, TripppleCrit. So that was exciting.
Yeah. I mean, like, let's go back here now. Now we've finished day 1. Both of you are in the winners final. And I guess there's a bit of experience here we need to talk about as well, because in the previous Australian regionals, we didn't have a day 2. Only OCIC, we've had a day 2. Brisbane regional that we had late last year had a day 2. So Melbourne also now having a day 2. So I suppose, like, for Crit, how did you feel knowing that you're going to play the next day? Did you, PV poke any teams? Did you, line up anything beforehand? Did you sleep beforehand? What was your game plan going into day 2?
Surprisingly, I actually did sleep. Normally, I'm up until 12:30, 1 a.m. at night in the morning, and not getting much sleep. But we had some celebrations after day 1. And I didn't think at all about what I was going to do against Jacob. We did actually exchange sheets then and there when we realised we're versing each other tomorrow, just for a bit of fun to see what we're going to verse each other against. But I did no practice whatsoever. I'd already come so far that I'd already won to myself. So win, lose, didn't matter. One of us was going to go through, and that would be great.
Yeah, and how about yourself, Yako? Like, I know we had some celebrations on that Saturday night, but were there thoughts? Maybe there were no thoughts going into Sunday.
No, zero thoughts. There was an entirety of, we exchanged the sheets at the like when we as Crit said, the moment we realized we're up against each other, we exchanged sheets. I made a very quick plan in my head, forgot the plan. Went out for our celebrations, and I would say that both Crit and I maybe had, 1 or 2 too many drinks, and
you both celebrated appropriately.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, and unlike him, which I'm very jealous about, I actually got a terrible sleep that night. I did not sleep. Well at all that night. So I went into Sunday pretty tired, I won't lie. But I mean, because I wasn't coming in for the attention of winning any I was just coming in for the attention of making it far and as Chris said towards the beginning, like hang out with the community. So, you know, basically every win I made at this point was just an added bonus of going towards, you know, CP and getting the money. So I I didn't feel like I needed to plan because I was already very content with where I made it at this point.
Yeah, you'd already achieved the points that you wanted, just to give you a boost, and yeah, you'd already come so far that it didn't matter.
So like top 8 was my goal. That was my goal for for that tournament was top 8. So, you know, knowing that I made top 3, I was more than happy with where I had gone at this stage.
And surprisingly, I think a lot of people would probably come up against Jacob and maybe be a little bit nervous just because he's such a strong battler with such a good record in the Play Pokemon tournaments. But we're such close friends that he's actually one of the few that I've got absolutely no nerves about battling. Yeah, like some of the others which I'm not chatting to as often that have done so well and play Pokemon. I definitely would be a little bit more nervous if I versed them, but coming up against Jacob is just fun.
Man, we had entirely opposite thoughts on this one. I mean, if people know my day 2 ritual of several trips to a certain place in the span of like an hour, you know, I think even before my first battle, I had to go use a little boys' room probably about half a dozen times, and I was nervous as hell going up against your team because when I realized in the morning, I'm like, wait, I'm against a Bastiodon, and looking at my team, I'm like, this is not going to be fun, and I don't know why. Like I've never felt nerves going into a grand finals, going into like our winners finals. I don't know why, but for some reason, for Melbourne, I was extremely nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, so coming up against, looking at your team, it was very obvious. My Bastiodon is so strong, like beating 4 of your 6 very comfortably, and then only having one hard counter being the Whiscash, and then also having your Gligar, which is a counter for Basti, but it's not a very good counter. You need 2 moves to KO the Basti, and by that stage, Basti's also been able to throw a move. And the smackdowns have just added up so much compared to your wing attacks. So it's really not that comfortable for the Gligar. So as strong as Basti did feel, though, or look on paper, it's actually quite hard because it forces you to run Whiscash, which, as it turns out, that was actually one of the Pokemon that my team's slightly weak to. And as it turned out, Shadow Whiscash was such a good call over the regular, as my Azumarill and Lickitung, which are quite nice and easy to run, just have a hard time against the Whiscash. Like, it was absolutely amazing how much a Shadow Whiscash can do in those matchups.
Yeah, I mean, looking at like Bastiodon was good against everything but Whiscash, but then as your Azu and Lickitung was so safe, I feel like it was very much both sides had one major advantage, but then everything else could cover that advantage. So I feel like the teams themselves are very balanced, like against each other. Despite there being like the obvious Whiscash good against Bastiodon, the overall team compositions were very neutral into each other.
It definitely felt like if I'm going to run Bastiodon, then I'm playing the slightly RPS game against your team, because I know you bring in Whiscash every game, and I know you're going to bring Gligar every game, more or less, because you just want your 2 best counters to the Bastiodon. So, which means I'm only hunting one Pokemon with my Bastiodon, and trying to avoid the other 2. So it's RPS for me, but it's not for you.
I mean, you say that. I think 2 out of the 3 times you led Bastiodon, I lost the lead.
Yeah, and so even winning the lead, like leading Bastiodon into a Pokemon which I comfortably win, your safe swap of Whiscash really shocked me, and I didn't realize the matchups with the Shadow, but it was so comfortable that it could flip Lickitung or Azumarill. So like those, my not having a hard check to the Whiscash made it very easy for you to save swap it, and very hard for me to maintain swap against it.
I mean, good games overall, though.
Yeah, so it ended up. I think we ended up playing a lot more neutral matchups. I cannot recall for the life of me how all 15 games played out.
Oh God, no! Neither can I.
Ridiculous. But yeah, I definitely in the end learned I need to put Bastiodon away.
I mean, this is why we're glad for Steve and Debbie putting all the work together for that stream.
Yeah.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah, look. Not all Steve, not all Steve. Yeah. So I guess for the background, for those that aren't aware and didn't see either this stream or the Brisbane stream, we literally just had for the entire top four, we had people with cameras and phone cameras just over shoulders recording the battles so that we could then use that footage to put a stream together. We asked many things of ESL. We asked, can we take the footage directly off the phones? We were told no. We asked, can we just like, after the battles are done, get the phones and just like record the phone recordings above the screen? We were told no. So, over the shoulder, all we could do. But, so big shout out to not only Debbie Pebble for recording so many of those battles, but also, our queen Zoe Two Dots, Shadow, Agent Magikarp as well. I recorded one battle, but that was quickly put to a stop after it was noticed that my phone quality is absolutely atrocious. But these battles were just such quality. Like I feel like in some ways, you guys going back and forth really gives a lot of insight into what went into the battles, but it doesn't quite portray that picture of how much back and forth it was, how many really lost leads were able to be overcome, and how it went 3-2 and then 3-2 and then 3-2 all the way to game 15. Like it was a really tight set that didn't feel like it was 15 games of RPS back and forth. They were really, really skilled battles, and despite the fact that both of you went in with an incredibly sort of chill attitude, a little bit of it is what it is, let's see how we go against each other, with I guess most of the stress hanging out on Yako's side, I think it really came out with a really high quality set, three sets of best of 5 battles. So this is the sort of stuff that should really go to show why Australia should get a stream in the first place. But also, I guess, do either of you guys have like key memories or trauma from the 15 games of battles that particularly stand out to either of you?
The 17 minutes spent.
I think it ended up being like 70, because I think at game 14, Rosaria, the judge, told us we were 72 minutes in, so I think it ended up being about 75 minutes of battling. That itself was traumatic. I think for me, finding out that my Lickitung lost CMP to crits, and then I remember this too well because I'm thinking to myself, like, why did I keep doing it? I think we CMP tying on one-turn moves is not easy. I think I CMP tied him on my Lickitung like 3 times in a row. And I'm just thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I should not be doing. And I kept like making that mistake. And I think the other one as well was realizing that Gligar is really not that big of a Basti answer. Especially, I think for me, it was really evident in the very last game where I led Gligar into Basti. And I decided to no shield the Stone Edge. So we played out the zero shield matchups, and my Gligar was like on 1 HP by the end of it. And I was thinking to myself, like, this whole time I've been relying on Gligar as a Basti answer, and I'm like, this thing is not a Basti answer.
Yeah, it's really close.
So there's like a few moments like that, and that as well, not having any experience with Shadow Wish Cash. This tournament was the first and only time I've ever used Shadow Wish Cash. The only other time I used it was against Bastiodon. So using it in neutral matchups was kind of it was really tricky to figure out how to run it, how should I use it, because I'm sort of like learning throughout the games how to utilize it better.
Like I think there was one key time where you had your Whiscash against my Lickitung, and you land the Scold, and I think we're shields down, or you've got one shield left, so you're able to shield Power Whips no problem. But it was whether or not you actually get to KO me in the next move, but you'd heard that actually some Lickitungs can survive the double Scold. So going Scold and then 2 Mud Bombs is actually the play.
Yes, that's right. No, I want to think about. I use Shadow Wish Cash against Sammy P because that's where I learnt. Yes, I learnt that key piece of information where double Skull doesn't work, so you have to go Skull double Mud Bomb against high rank Lickitungs, which I have no idea if yours is high rank, so I didn't want to take the gamble. But yeah, I think just using knowledge of previous matchups to figure out how to play as your tournament went, as the tournament goes, is it's something that I don't think I've actually used until now.
Yeah. So there was such a neutral match. No, it was just such a neutral match. Like as soon as I put the Bastiodon away and just started playing with the other mons instead, everything was just so neutral and really came down to, when you were shielding, and turns out we both like to shield really late. That was pretty cool to see. Like I had one game which was pretty memorable of leaving 2 shields for my red health Lickitung to take down a Charge Bug and a Whiscash. And the Charge Bug had a fair amount of health too.
You shield flexed me twice.
I did 2 shield flex you twice, but in saying that, one of those games you could have thrown a move. You could have thrown a move.
I could have thrown a move, but you have 2 shields. Fuck yeah, I will prevent the 2 shield flex. But in my head, it's like, there's no point in me throwing. And then I realized 2 games I allowed you to do that, and I'm thinking to myself, I really should. Why did I give him that? Why did I give him that? That flex to hold on me. That 2 shield you do twice in the finals of the Melbourne Regionals. I'm never going to hear the end of that one.
Nor should you.
So we had the winners finals best of 5, and you beat me. What was it? We went all the way to game 5. So yeah, it was.
So I beat you 3-2.
Deciding game. It can't be any closer. And then I come up against Rocket Claire again. And
I feel like this is
those battles were super close. And she was starting to get brave with bringing her Altaria into my team. Thankfully, I had a pretty good first couple of games, and so I ended up up ahead 2 games to none. And so I decided to play a bit more risky. It didn't pay off. So she wins the next game, and in the 4th game, which would have been me going through, I honestly thought halfway through the match, I can't win. There's no way I can win. Thankfully, I just keep tapping the phone because I have my Lickitung, which has to take down a full health Altaria and her low health Lickitung. So one mon versus 2 mons. And it ends up coming down to me surviving Dragon Breaths on 1 HP to get to one last body slam to win the battle. And it was just incredibly close.
I remember watching that, and you've already dropped your phone at that point. But you kept tapping, but you dropped your phone going, okay, yeah. Like all the noises came out. I was like, it's still going. And managed to seal it in that game 4 with Rocket Claire.
It was so close.
Incredibly close.
That's actually one of the benefits of having the over the shoulder cam, in that we can at least actually capture that imaging of the phone's slowly approaching the table, the phone's being put on the table, and then everything sort of going back all of a sudden. Oh, wait a minute, we've gone the other way.
I completely forgot that we were being filmed. So I think at one stage I remembered, and so I would actually lean back just so that some of you could get a better view of my phone. But most of the time it was just I got nobody around me. It's just me and this other opponent battling away, and we're the only two in the room. That's what it felt like, and I completely forgot there was cameras. So I'm doing my thing that I would do normally with my phone, and like, they get to the charge move, throw my phone down, and then pick it up again when I'm ready to tap. Yeah, it's so much fun.
Got to take those breaks. But yeah, if we're filming behind, just play how you usually play. Don't worry about us. We'll figure it out. But yeah, now you had your battle, your first match. Oh, sorry, with YACOBERVITCH. Then you had Claire again, and then obviously into that second match with Jacob again to make it and push it to that bracket reset. How did you feel after that?
Amazing to take a best of 5 off Jacob. Like, after this much time of knowing each other and battling, I think the early days we were quite 50-50. But he's just taken such a leap in advanced knowledge of the game's mechanics, far beyond me, to a point where I barely beat Jacob anymore. He beats me at least 90% of the time, even if we do auto rec battles just for the daily battles to get a charge TM possible. He'll just RPS me. He definitely is a very hard battler to beat, and to take best of 5 off him felt amazing. And then to top it off, going 15 games. Like every single best of 5, all the way to a game 5, with the final match, the game 15, coming down to just one move to decide the game. You cannot have a final be any closer than that. Bracket reset, all 10 games, and come down to one fast move in the 15th game that we've played against each other in a tournament.
Yeah, it was a very climatic finish, and again, just wish it was like on a Play Pokemon stream. Again, we still had that wonderful stream that Steve had on yesterday, but yeah, just what a great finish for both of you, and congratulations to both of you as well. Yako also taking out another championship, and Crit, getting a finalist, and a finalist medal as well, and not too bad in the pocket as well with the prize pool. So I want to know what your feelings are now that you've had a week to recollect your feelings and thoughts about the regional, and what are you looking forward to, or how are you going to play out the rest of the season? Starting with Yako.
So, to be honest, after winning Melbourne, and I had expressed this, I had very mixed feelings about winning. So it felt great being able to win and all that. Like I was like very happy with it. But as we know, like Australia didn't have too many means of qualifying for Worlds. And one thing that I would really love for Australia is to have as much representation of people going. So going into Melbourne, I had one thought in mind, and that was, I don't think it's going to happen, but what if? There was that what if I won Melbourne and I potentially stopped someone from going to Worlds. So winning Melbourne, for the first few days, I had a lot of guilt about it. And I know I've spoken to Crit about this already, spoken to a few people and expressed it, and I was really worried about the backlash of maybe the community being upset with me for essentially avoiding one of the entries for Worlds. Maybe hearing some people saying like, this guy already has an invite, why is he going to a regionals, this is unnecessary. I have my reasons for going. I want to see the community, I want to get the extra CP for the travel award. It's my local one. Why wouldn't I go? So definitely for probably a good 48 hours after that, I was very conflicted with my winning. But honestly, to my shock, the overwhelming support I got, I think it threw me completely off. Not like not just from the international scene, but even the Australians.
Mm.
I never got any like backlash. I never got any negative criticisms or comments about, you know, oh, you've done, like, why did you have to go and win? Well, you could have thrown, or you could have just like pretended to lose. But I made a promise to myself that if I was ever going to get in the situation where I'm in the finals, I was never going to throw against whoever I came up against, because in my eyes, that's just insulting my opponent. If I throw and gave them a world's invite, in my head, and probably in their head, they're going to feel I did not earn this. Like, I earned most of it, making it up to the finals, but I didn't earn that invite. I got given that, and I did not want to insult anyone who made it that far by doing that. Like, yes, the world's invite would be good for them, but it's also just something I don't see it as good sportsmanship.
I told you, Jacob, do not throw. Do not throw against me. Please, do not throw. Like, I have to beat you. If I'm going to win, I have to beat you legit. And it will just eat away at me if you let me win. As much as it would be amazing to just straight away, be winning a ticket and going to Worlds with you, I could not think of it. It would just hurt me so much if I didn't earn it. And I thought about it later as well, that I reckon everybody else around the world who looks at our tournament, if they knew that you threw, then they would look at me as if I don't deserve to be there. So I'm very thankful that you didn't throw, that you gave me a good battle.
Yeah, no, I never intended to throw. I told you this before. Every single game that we played was me playing at my hardest, and you pushed me to my hardest. So yeah, there was never a point in time where I was even going to consider, even in that very last game when it came to 1 HP, there never once crossed my mind to just stop tapping or something and just have you and just get you the win, like give you the win. I was never going to let that happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for beating me.
Yeah, but no, it's true though. I think when we get to these points, and like you said, on a more of a world stage than anything, you don't want to be given something that, not that you don't deserve, but you want to work for it. And I think everyone that has competed and is in the top 4, top 8, top 16, like, worked for it. So to throw it at the last minute, it seems just unjust for whoever was going to be in the finalist position, because it just means that, yeah, like what Crit said, like it would just hurt. It would just be like you doubt your ability, that you want it fair and square, which is awesome. Yes, you won, but that means that you are the back-to-back regional winner. There is only 3 regionals in Australia, unless they do a surprise and like a Bologna and throw out another regional. But at this stage, we know that there is only 3. So next being Perth. I just want to know, is anyone coming over?
Well,
No.
Jacob, first, tell us, please. You have to go.
No, it's not happening. It is.
You have to break the new world record of winning 3 back to back. Come on.
The thing is, right, I've already set a precedence of, like, I've already set the bar for people to try and the thing is, I could go to Perth, I could win Perth and solidify
you
that.
You heard it here first, guys.
but I'm not going to, because the bar I set is already so high. I feel like it would be more impressive if someone else could beat that. Like, yes, I could be the first, but I don't want to be the first. I've already achieved what I want to achieve. I don't have that ambition of going to Perth and getting the 3-peat, because I don't want to. That's not who I am. My focus is now set for Worlds, and that's the only focus I want to set for now. Like, I don't need the extra accolades. I don't need the glory or whatever it is. I just want to. Now I have my own personal goal of doing well at Worlds. But hey, if someone else ends up winning 2 out of the 3 regionals in Australia and wants to go for Perth, absolutely go for it. Because I think it would be incredible to be able to set that record of winning all 3 regionals in a in a single season of play Pokemon. So
Yeah, how good would that record be, hey? Like, oh, if only someone's already done 2 back-to-backs.
It would not just only be, if you win Perth, it would not just only be 3 regionals back to back. It would be winning every single regional in a region.
In a single season, yeah. But again, I don't have that ambition. I personally don't want to go for it. And trust me, I've been getting a lot of support from, not in the sense of Perth. I think this is more the international community. I've been getting a lot of support from people encouraging me to go to Perth to get the 3-peat. And this isn't me saying I don't want to go to Perth because I want to let someone else win. That's not the reason why I'm not going to Perth. It's just because I don't have the internal ambition to go. So I'm perfectly content with with what I've achieved now, and then putting my thoughts, like I said, onto Worlds and onto that next chapter.
You've heard it here first. He's retired.
I'm retired.
We've heard that before.
Yeah. Hey, I already said I'm going back into my retirement hole. So I can disappear for a few months and then resurface when Worlds come around and hopefully do well there.
Okay.
I'll just say, I'll throw a little bit of support your way. Obviously the entire world is sort of looking at you and putting the pressure on. Go to Perth, go for the full region sweep, and as absolutely sick as that would be, it would be so cool to have that sort of just a dominant title, I guess, under your name forever. I see that the ambition may not be there, but also I think that you've already gone ahead and really proven your position sort of at the top of the region at the moment. Obviously winning 2 back-to-back regionals, 2 out of the 3 regionals is already massive, but adding that on to winning OCIC last season with the highest win rate in the world at the time, that 96% win rate, I feel like you don't need to win Perth to prove that you're currently sort of at the top of the game at the moment. I really think that you're sort of you've got enough, you've got that reputation sort of locked in. Everyone's going to be spooked of you going into the World Championships. I don't think that you need the Perth accolade to be the absolute champion that you already are.
Yeah, I feel so for me, and this is not a secret. There was especially sort of spoken about in other regions, there was my skill and reputation sort of questioned after OCIC as to whether or not that I was actually as competent as I was made out to be. Having won OCIC and then not attending any other regionals, I never proved, how consistent I am. And then even at Worlds, I didn't have the best performance, and I admit that. I went 1-2. I beat Human Catch-a-Bug, who was a big name. He's a very strong competitor, but then going 1-2 and not quite, I feel, proving myself as I could have. So there was still that question as to my ability, and really, it wasn't the goal that I was setting to achieve, but it was kind of it was an effect of winning Brisbane and now Melbourne. I have proven to everyone that what I did wasn't a fluke. I've proven to myself now as well that what I've done is not a fluke. What I've done is I've achieved through my own skill and consistency, and I feel like I've finally put that question down to rest. Is YACOBERVITCH actually good, or is he just the one-stop person? It's no, I feel like I'm happy with myself. I've now shown that I am actually good at I'm now good. I am consistent in that regard.
I'm so glad to hear that. As in, you're backing yourself now as well. Because there's always gonna be speculation out there. Because I don't know They just don't know enough about Australia. One of the reasons why Steve and I even started this podcast was to just try and project out there like how good you guys are. And, you know, because we're just all the way down here, they don't see it. And they don't see how well our players are. So, yeah, I think, you know, sometimes you just gotta ignore the haters, because unfortunately, when you do things really well, there will be haters that just question and doubt you as time goes on, and that's just part of being, you know, in a world where we have social media. So yeah, I think it's really good to hear that you are, you know, confident in your ability and backing yourself.
You know you've made it when you've got haters.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's one way of looking at it. You're right.
And
So-
crit.
Oh man, Debbie, we need to
What?
step our game up.
No, we got that one hater.
Okay, that's just me.
Aw, that one called me old. Anyway, Crit, where will I see you in Perth, or are you going to hit the local circuit?
Yeah. So obviously, I never expected to go anywhere in Melbourne, and actually achieving 160 points out of the now 250 that we require means that it's quite viable. I could potentially get enough points. It's a little bit harder for me than quite a few battlers, though there are, again, quite a few that are in my position too. I'm a father of 3 boys. They're all young, 6'4" and 1.5. So you know, life is very busy, and weekends are very busy. So trying to attend some of these locals when they do eventually come might be tricky. Including Perth might be pretty tricky to attend, but I think I'm going to really look into it, and I think I'm going to try and achieve the points to go. So
Awesome. All right, so tick plan. I'll add you to the you know, the socials list that I have running in the background. But yeah, it'll be lovely to see you if you do make it over, and if somehow Jacob comes out of retirement, we'd lovely to see you as well. But if not, we're on the trajectory all the way to Hawaii sometime in August. That also has not been announced yet. So yeah, it's really exciting to see you guys that both have worked so hard to get to this point, and now that we have locals and another regional, it's really, and that the CP cap has lowered. We actually haven't even talked about that. The CP cap is lowered to 250 now. It is so tangible now for you guys. So I'm really excited to see who can qualify and make it all the way there.
Yeah. So like, there's when's Perth? When is
April 13th, 14th, I believe.
Okay, and then the locals are coming out in March, right?
Yeah, so they will be, I believe, sanctioning happens next week. So what sanctioning means is that usually before a challenge or cup is initiated, it needs about 2 weeks for it to be loaded on the system. So that should be coming out sometime in the middle of February. So pretty much from March 1st, challenges and cups can get started.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's definitely the potential I could earn the points without needing to go to Perth.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially. But again, quite difficult. So we'll see when the time comes.
Awesome. And as usual with our podcast, we finish it off on a random question, so you guys haven't been prepped on the random question of the day. And it's been a hot topic in the Discord of late. So I think it's not going to be an unfamiliar question.
I think I know where this is going.
YACOBERVITCH.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to take a chai latte?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure to Rocket Claire's disgust. I like to take my chais dirty.
Would you like to explain what a dirty chai latte is, in case people don't know?
A dirty. So everyone knows what a coffee is. Everyone knows what a chai latte is. I like what is considered the abomination of you add a coffee shot into the chai latte, in a sense, making it dirty. So dirty chai latte is pretty. It's something that I feel like I could not live without. I have one, or I would say arguably 2 every day, because it is just my drink of choice. So To those who I've probably committed sacrilege or heresy and I've just burst their eardrums by saying this, I'm not apologizing.
And is that just like with like regular milk? Are we talking skim? Are we talking like almond, oat? What kind
No,
of?
no. Look, I'm already doing something terrible. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it even worse by doing that. It's just regular milk.
Fair enough. Okay, I appreciate it as a chai latte lover myself. Crit, how do you take your drink of choice?
Oh, drink of choice. Cool. So I don't have to have chai.
Well, look,
No.
I'm just saying, you guys are both from Victoria. Like, you both like are somewhat local to Melbourne. You guys would know your
The coffee
coffee.
capital.
You would know your cafe culture. So tell me how you like to have it.
I'm pretty
Coffee culture.
I'm pretty standard. I'm a cappuccino, 1 sugar.
Nice.
What do you mean? No, what do you mean? I've seen you smash down more iced coffees than any man I know.
Okay, well then the drink of choice is probably Dare Iced Coffee. There, we said it.
Dare iced coffee. The tradies' choice. It sounds like.
And it has to be the triple shot. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
That's
the
amazing.
triple.
That's the red one, yeah, the intense one.
Nah, it's silver.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, yeah, for me, the stronger the iced coffee, the better. So I usually go. I think there's like a red one, which is just straight up just says intense coffee, and that's usually the one I go for.
Yeah, no, triple every day. Triple shot.
While we're on the topic, Steve, what is your choice at a cafe besides the baby chino?
I'm gonna say apple juice, isn't it?
Yeah, shout out Willow Wonka for the apple juice deliveries. No, I'm not a caffeine man. Can you imagine me on caffeine? Like, come on.
No.
Sit me down with a hot chocolate and I'll be good.
Your MS Paint jobs would be like, Picasso level qualities if you had coffee in you.
I'd be
Oh
very
yeah,
Pollack,
move aside, Da Vinci.
Well, thank you both.
I've got to leave some of the talent to other people.
Wait, Debbie, what's your choice?
Oh, chai latte, easy. Almond milk, done. Because I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
Don't know how I feel about that, but
I tried oat milk, but it spikes my sugar levels. So I'm just like, got to that point in life where I have to like look after myself. So I'm like, oh, if I'm gonna have one vice, then I might as well just have it with almond milk. But it's
Yeah,
anyway. I could talk about that later. But thank you both for coming on our podcast today. Where can we find you guys? Tell us your socials or other various websites. I don't know where to find you guys. So we'll start off with Crit. Where can we find you?
Oh no, do I even have a social? Am I even
Twitter.
social? I've got a Twitter. Do I use it?
Technically.
I don't even know my Twitter.
Okay.
It's probably just it's probably just TripppleCrit. Just look up TripppleCrit.
It's just triple crit.
We'll add it in the
with 3
description.
P's. It needs to have 3 P's. TripppleCrit on TripppleCrit on Twitter or X. Now they call it. I don't know why they changed. And then for the most part, you'll find me on Discord. Normally in the Arena Australis Hangout channel.
Awesome. And YACOBERVITCH, where will we find you?
I just on X at YACOBERVITCH, all capitals. Good luck spelling it because most people don't really know how it works. There's not a K, there's a C. That's all you need to know. And I would say, yeah, pretty much you'll find me. I'm in a few Discords. You find me in Arena Australis as well, and a few other ones. So you'll probably see my name floating around. Feel free to send a DM and say hi if you feel like it.
And when is this Twitch channel coming along, or is that still in retirement as well?
No, I mentioned the last one. Didn't I say like 2026 or something like that? 2025?
Wow. Why so long? So long.
Oh, I mean, I don't like to rush into things.
We'll keep reminding you every time you jump on this podcast, which could be, in April. No, just joking. Also for us,
Unless.
You can find us at G'day Battlers on Twitter or X. We do have a YouTube channel as well. If you are listening via YouTube, drop us a like. If you're listening through Spotify or Apple, drop us a 5-star as well. Thank you again to TripppleCrit, YACOBERVITCH, and co-host Steve. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye. I just learned from the TCG streams. I thought it was
They say that on there?
they said it on one and then it hard cut. I think it was OCIC. The TCG guys were like, someone had a deck of cards that didn't have sleeves on it, and the caster was like, "Oh, in TCG we love going in raw," and then the stream cut, and clearly just too late to the button. It's like, oh.
Yeah, good job, TCG.